Once a month or so, we invite couples counselor and sex therapist Dr. David McKenzie to Studio 4 to take us on a tour of relationship issues. When things go wrong between two partners, often basic shame is in the mix. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. David McKenzie back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Hi, Fanny.
Nice to see you. Great tie.
Thanks. One of my clients bought it for me in Harrods in London. So I tied it myself.
I bet you did, because I doubt that Harrods sells clip-ons.
No, they don't sell clip-ons.
No, I can't see that somehow. Not possible. So, the shame thing, what do you mean shame? How do you define it?
Well, what I'm talking about here is subliminal or subconscious or toxic shame. There's a difference between you contradict your value system and you feel ashamed of yourself. That's very conscious.
Okay.
Toxic shame is that deep sense in which I've moved from making a mistake to I am a mistake, in which I feel as though I shouldn't even be here, that I cannot be my authentic self. I've got to be somebody else to be accepted. It's interesting that John Bradshaw, who wrote the PBS series on family dysfunction, wrote a very interesting book called The Shame That Binds Us, a very good book. But one that's come across my desk just recently, given to me by a client, a gay client, is called The Velvet Rage, written by a gay psychologist for gay men. And the whole theme of that is how many gay men act out of this deep toxic shame, that they're not acceptable. They've gotten the message that there's something wrong with who they are. So they go into all sorts of lifestyles of outrageousness or overachieving or self-destructive behavior to cope with this deep sense in which I don't deserve to be here. A
deep sense that begins as a child?
Yes, it does. It comes from family of origin. It comes from the messages we take to ourselves, and we work with that. But I've recommended that book to my straight clients, and it doesn't apply to them in the gay sense, but toxic shame transcends sexual orientation.
I understand that, because if you were raised with alcoholic parent, a mother who didn't love you, who couldn't love anybody, all of that, and you're just a little bat, and you think, I'm no good.
But it can
no one loves me.
But it also can happen in families where on the surface everything looks wonderful. In fact, you can look back at your family and say, Mom and Dad love me and all these, but somewhere in the mix we somehow get this message and take it to ourselves that we're not acceptable for who we are. We can't be our authentic self. In fact, I suspect that borderline personality disorder, in which 75% of it occurs in females under the age of 40, females that cannot take long-term relationships, their relationships are highly conflicted. They'll start a relationship and shut down on it rather quickly. They have a deep sense of abandonment and a sense of emptiness. It comes from a deep sense of toxic shame.
Toxic shame. So if you have toxic shame, if you have inability to really love or to trust or to commit, that could be part of it.
Well, not really.
Not commit. It's love, it's what?
There are people that are craving intimacy and are capable of love. But toxic shame expresses itself in roughly two different directions. In the one direction, it can be self-destructive. You can become an alcoholic. You can get into all sorts of trouble and self-destructive behavior because you feel so. This is all subconscious. People don't wake up in the morning saying, I have toxic shame and I'm going to do this. It's driven from depths that we're not aware of.
So you drink too much to kill the pain, or
kill the pain,
kill the shame?
The other part is we overdo stuff to look good. Workaholism is probably driven from toxic shame. People who go out of their way to get their doctorates and become lawyers and the top of the company, and they just drive to get that. They're dealing with a deep sense of inadequacy.
Okay, they drive, but they never have the feeling of being okay. So
Absolutely.
They're a pilot, they're a lawyer.
Thank you.
You
said it better than I could.
No, you know what I mean? They achieve and achieve and achieve. They don't run one marathon, they run 10.
That's right.
They go.
That's right.
From the outside, you think, oh my goodness, I'm a schlepper.
Yeah, you're
pretty much.
You actually, very good for you. You named the other issue in this, and that is that it doesn't matter what you do, you can never deeply feel fulfilled and satisfied. And so there are individuals out there still trying to please dear old dad who's been dead for 20 years, getting their doctorates and everything else.
Wow. So how do you get rid of it?
First of all, you have to recognize you have it.
So don't we all have a little bit of it? No?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've met people who don't. I certainly have a little of it. But We know it by our behavior. Many people who have this would vehemently deny it. I don't have toxic shame. Look what I've done with my life. But actually, when they start to do therapy and they start to get into themselves, they realize, whoa, this is not being driven from a sense of what I love. It's being driven from a place of I'm trying to prove that I'm okay.
Right. So how do you tap into it? Is there a test you can take to see whether or not as a child or perhaps a teenager you were that injured, you were bullied, you were gay, your parents didn't want you to be gay, whatever it is?
It usually comes out in therapy, in-depth therapy. Most people are not in touch with that. But the way to know it is by your behavior. By your works, you'll know them. And so if you're a person that's constantly overachieving, outrageous, doing grand things, and there's that deep level of dissatisfaction, that's coming from a place that isn't healthy.
Loneliness? A deep level of lonely?
Well, loneliness is a natural response to being alone. I mean, we are made by this universe to be together, you know.
Right, connect.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be necessarily a feature I would see in it. But also destructive behaviors, workaholism. The way to begin to deal with it, of course, is first of all awareness. And then to begin to work to simply, for instance, highly judgmental people who are moralistic, are often coming from a deep sense of shame. And so you'll find that very conservative Christians or religious people will be very judgmental, because a lot of that religion is being driven from deep shame. I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I need God.
Okay, or I need in search of something. I have to give my life over to someone because I don't know enough.
Not only is not knowing enough, I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah, and I just don't make it. And so to be aware of that and then put into place, if we tend to be judgmental or we tend to be a workaholic, to start to bring some conscious guidelines and strategies to controlling that. And then I always talk about, and John Bradshaw wrote a book called The Homecoming. Yes. One needs to get in touch with that, sounds California, but the inner child, and start to heal that past which is driving this. And that is a process. I suggest quickly, get a picture of yourself under the age of 12, spend time every day with that little girl, that little boy, adopt them, and try to hear what they would have to say to you and share them that you love with them.
So if you have one of those feelings of abandonment today, as an adult, an older adult, hearken back to when you were 10, 12, 15, and someone abandoned you, or you felt abandoned, or you didn't feel you could be yourself.
I think pretty well.
That's a lot of work, doctor.
Well, I mean, life is work. Scott Peck Sage's book, The Road Less Traveled With, life is difficult. And so it's a journey we're all on. And I suggest that for a person to start to get in touch with their past, remember what Santayana said, if we do not use history to learn from it, we're condemned to repeat it.
Right.
And so you'll find people hooking up with the same partners over and over again. You'll find people driving themselves into an early grave. Their doctor said slow down, they can't slow down. It's being driven from something deeper.
And there's
and
another...
it enters into relationships. It can destroy marriages.
I bet it can. So there's another theory that it isn't what happens to you, it's how you feel about what happens to you.
That's right. It's how, I mean, you'll get two children raised in the same home and mom's abandoned both. One will respond in one way, the other will respond in both ways. It will be damaging to both. Don't kid yourself. Both will be damaged by that, but they'll respond in different ways.
Sure. And that's isn't that the trick to getting through life?
Is what?
Is how you respond to it?
Yes.
If you respond from a true level.
If you're getting in touch with whatever that pain and that discontent is, and integrate that within yourself, and that takes time. So I'll say to people that I give this picture exercise to, this isn't a one-shot deal. Keep the picture with you in your wallet. Pull it out when and those memories will come to you. Sit and cry, sit and feel that. It's in the re-experiencing of that pain that we're automatically equipped to heal.
Okay, because they say if you're in some kind of pain, you should face it.
That's
and
right.
Get into it.
Very Buddhist.
Feel it. It is
right.
very Buddhist, but they say feel it. Don't deny it.
That's right.
Don't say, I'm not going to feel that way. I'm going to be happy, happy, happy. They say, go into it.
Well, you know...
like wallow in the pain.
Well, part of my concern, I'm very directive when I give counseling, and some might criticize me for that, but I think we have enough counseling, and I'm not running down my colleagues, believe me, I have utmost respect. But there is a brand of counseling which is just kind of helping a client whistle by the graveyard at midnight, and I don't think that's helpful. I think a client needs to be gently pushed and prodded to get in touch with that deeper level stuff.
I agree. And as I said before, it's enlightening, and it's work, but it's worth it.
Absolutely, it's worth it.
If you can go there, if you're brave enough to go there.
And it's never too late to start that. So if you're 80 years of age, don't say, well, I'm, you know, heaven's around the corner, I don't have to do this. No.
Right. No, live it out on a high if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Why not?
I got one saying for you. I
Yes.
learned it in high school. I read a story there. I love it. Live while you live, then die and be done with it.
Okay.
I love that.
I'm for that. But let's not die today.
No, exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
Dr. David McKenzie, our guest, couples counselor and sex therapist. And remember, you can catch all of our conversations on YouTube or follow us on Twitter at Fanny Studio 4. Tomorrow, Mr. Soccer, Bob Leonarduzzi, gives us a glimpse of his life so far in and out of the world of professional soccer. And artist and curator Mohammed Salemi takes us on a tour of the exhibition Nature, Knowledge, and the Knower. And Brock Tully, founder of the World Kindness Concert, comes in to promote kindness and reconnect our hearts. Thanks for watching Studio 4. There will be lots more on Shaw TV, only on Shaw TV.